Good afternoon, Packers fans. Aaron Nagler here with your Packers Daily Chat, coming to you live on the Cheesehead TV social channels Monday after the Super Bowl. I'm still in New Orleans, but man, it's getting to be that time where I've been away from home a little bit too long and I'm ready to get back, but I never want to leave on a Monday after the Super Bowl. So, one more day in New Orleans sounds good to me. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. What a Super Bowl. I know it's funny watching the online reaction. Lots of folks talking about how boring or disappointing the game was, etc. Man, I had so much fun yelling my heart out every time the Eagles took down Patrick Mahomes. I had a great time watching that game. I had a ton of fun. And look, if you were here on Friday for my preview and predictions, I did say the Eagles' offensive and defensive lines were going to make life hell for the Chiefs, and that certainly seemed to play out. Now, I certainly didn't see the curb stomping that transpired. I didn't see that one coming, but I certainly did think that the Eagles, particularly their defensive line, would give the Chiefs all sorts of trouble, and that certainly seemed to be the case. And look, if you're a Packers fan and you're looking at that game, you're looking at the Eagles, I hope you're realizing the Packers are not that far away. Now, I get they had a frustrating end of the season. I get it was hard to watch them come up short against the likes of the Lions and the Vikings and the Eagles. But this is a team, as I've said, has gone from 8 to 9 to 11 wins. They certainly gave the Eagles their toughest out in the postseason, if not all season. There's no doubt that the Packers are there. They have to take a significant step this offseason. I think a big part of that is improving both line play, offensive, defensive. That has certainly got to be a focal point. But man, they are in a good spot. And not trying to hang a banner for coming in third, fourth, fifth, or whatever, but the Packers are trending in the right way. And I just hope more Packers fans can realize that after watching that game last night. I mean, they beat the Chiefs 2 years ago. They look pretty, tough, at least on defense, against the Eagles in the playoffs this year. They certainly have work to do. No one's disputing that. But they certainly are not maybe as far away as people kind of think, given how disappointing it was towards the end of the season. Obviously, coming in third in the division, being 1-6 in the division, and being basically a fingernail away from being, 0 in the division certainly doesn't sit well as you're heading into an offseason. But I do think the way this offseason or this postseason transpired, including last night, should tell you if the Packers can continue to get better along the line of scrimmage, both via outside input, whether that's free agency, the draft, via trade, or what have you, but also more importantly, and as is the Packers' way, from development from within, having guys get better and continue to get better and hopefully grow into roles. I think this is a team that can really make some noise next season. So that was my takeaway. Your mileage may vary, and that's why I come here to talk to you fine folks. Before I do, let's give a shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. That's right. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com, use code CHTV. Spend $5 on lineups and get $50 instantly. Prize Picks is available in 43 different states, most importantly, including Wisconsin. I came so close to nailing my Prize Picks lineup. Unfortunately, Josh Sweat was the Eagles defender that got after it instead of my choices. Chris Jones for the Chiefs, I thought for sure was going to get home at least once, and that never transpired. So came close, but no cigar. But always a good time with Prize Picks. Make sure you utilize the link in the description of this video. Remember, code CHTV. Get on it. Send me your lineups. All right, folks, what's going on? We got a bunch of folks already chiming in. Maximilian, how you doing, man? Thanks for being a Care of the G Club member. How about the 65-67 Packers getting a shout out once the Eagles victory was secured? My favorite part of the game. Absolutely outstanding seeing the visage of Vince Lombardi riding on the shoulders of the greats there, including one Jerry Kramer. Absolutely outstanding. It was nice that Fox acknowledged it. Hope that puts a quash on the first to ever do it nonsense that we heard throughout last evening even, but certainly during the kind of lead up to the game. Still an outstanding squad there in the 60s. Lombardi's crew, the last to win 3 championships in a row in the NFL. Jeff Smith, how are you, man? Thanks for the super chat. The three-peat has been rightfully defended. I am guessing that Josh Sweat played himself out of our price range. Dinner recommendations? I'm headed to Port of Call tonight. And oh my goodness, Jeff, I had an outstanding brunch at Commander's Palace. I'm sure you've heard of it. If anyone is coming to New Orleans, I cannot recommend it enough. We got jazz brunch. It was phenomenal. We ate at like 11:30 and I was full all the way through the day. I didn't eat again until like 7 at night. It was so good. And the ambiance, the whole decor of the place, such a throwback. Highly recommend Commander's Palace. As far as Josh Sweat playing himself out of the price range, I don't think so. I mean, certainly that is an awesome performance on the game's biggest stage, but I do not doubt for a moment that if that is, somebody that the Packers have interest in, they can certainly make that work. Now, there will undoubtedly be other suitors, but there were other suitors for Josh Jacobs, and there were other suitors for Xavier McKinney. The Packers got those deals done, and they have more flexibility this offseason than they did last. So, yeah, I wouldn't close the door on that possibility. Now, likelihood, I'm not ready to say there's a likelihood that happens, but I certainly think they can be in those discussions. Zimitovich, what's up, man? Thanks for being a Care of the G Club member. That game reminded me of Peyton against the Pats in '85 when they did everything to stop him but get blown out, similar to the Chiefs limiting Barkley. I mean, it was surprising to me how, I wouldn't say a non-factor, but how little Barkley had to say as far as the final outcome. Like his output wasn't really the driving force of that victory, right? To me, it reminded me of the Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl, where like right from the jump, and that was in New York. Just from the opening gun, it just was so clear that the Broncos were completely overmatched. That's what it reminded me of. Although that was surprising, given how well the Chiefs had played throughout this season. Certainly didn't see it coming, like I said. Joey, how are you, man? Thanks for the super chat. See you in Santa Clara in 2026. Go Pack, go. Man, Santa Clara is not my favorite destination for a Super Bowl, I got to admit. Especially if you're covering the proceedings, you end up kind of in a media shuttle bus more often than not for like half your time there. But if the Packers were to get to the Super Bowl, it's funny that Corey and I have to talk about what we would do, because I would suspect we'd have to have some kind of watch party. But I would like to be in the city, wherever that Super Bowl is being held. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We shall see. Lieutenant Dan, thanks for being a Care of the G Club member, brother. Makes you realize how close the Packers actually are. Grab a king cake beignet across the street from Cafe Du Monde. I was at Cafe Du Monde yesterday. Great stuff. Absolutely love it. Peter, thanks for the super chat. Did Mahomes hang on to the ball too long? It seemed like the Buffalo game. It was 3-step drop and throw. I mean, Peter, you got to remember, he may have been holding on to the ball too long, but that's what Philly makes you do, because it's really hard to find open spaces. At one point, you kept seeing these receivers working downfield. You're working into somewhat different kind of configurations of that too high look, and there's just a ton of bodies, and they do a great job of kind of it's not really a man match principle, but they match with their personnel as far as route recognition and combo recognition, where it looks like at first initially the look is zone, but then they match up with guys, and they cover them like white on rice. There's not a lot of places to go with the football, especially when you got that too high look that you can't run them out of. And that was the major problem for the Chiefs last night. They could not run the ball at all. It was very similar to the issue the Packers had, right, in that playoff game. The best and most tried and true method of getting them out of that look is to run the football. But with those behemoths up front and all that talent up front, it's really hard to do it. So, yeah, Mahomes was undoubtedly holding the ball at times, but it was very, very difficult to find places to go with the football. And you saw the one time they tried to move the pocket there to the outside, he, cardinal sin, laid over the middle, tried to come back with it, and there's Cooper DeJean with his eyes on the quarterback. Easy pickings. They make it tough, man. Jeezy baby, how you doing? Aaron, football is done for a bit. Time to get my family time in. Going to love all the DINK I am about to consume. Do you mean the Draft Industrial Complex, sir? I believe we have 74 days until the draft kicks off in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'll be at the Combine in Indianapolis in a couple of weeks to really kind of ramp things up here on Cheesehead TV. But in the meantime, we'll still be doing the Draft Industrial Complex podcast each and every week. Tyler Brook and myself. Our next one drops Wednesday afternoon, so be on the lookout for that. Joe, what's going on, man? There are similarities between the end of the Eagles 2023 season and the end of the Packers 2024 season. What should Packers focus on to make same gain? Man, I'll gonna keep saying it. I've been saying it all offseason already. I'll continue to say it throughout this offseason. They have to improve up front. They have to control the game at the line of scrimmage. And everything after that is secondary. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not important, doesn't mean that it's not necessary, but winning the game up front, there is no greater way to pave your way to a championship than to own the line of scrimmage. So for me, I think it's pretty easy, and I know a lot of talk this offseason is going to be about adding kind of marquee players. We've talked about Myles Garrett and Max Crosby and things of that nature, and those are fun content pieces. But for me, I think it's much more likely that they wait a bit early in free agency. Maybe they sign Ojulari, the edge rusher from the Giants, or Odigizua, the defensive tackle from the Cowboys, somebody around like that, and then they look to the draft. That's my guess anyway. We'll see how kind of outlandish they get and how kind of big ticket items they go after. But for me, it's their entire focus needs to be on improving both sides of the line of scrimmage, and particularly the middle of their defense. Joey, what's up? What did you think of the halftime show? Well, I'm glad you asked. Look, I think Kendrick is a really smart performer, and I think he's really good at what he does. Really wished he would have played King Kunta, sorry. But as far as like everyone talking about, and clearly the political side of it is a certain group doesn't like what he's talking about, and a certain group thinks it's genius. And look, you can have those opinions. All I know is that, I'm not a huge hip hop fan. I do like and appreciate Kendrick. I thought the performance and the kind of thought that went into it was really smart. The music itself, it's not stuff that moves me too much. It's not really in my vein. But I do love people who say, well, it's not for a mass audience, or this is, I can't understand what he's saying, or whatever the kind of put downs are. Because it's like, look, man, we watched the Bones of the Who up there not too long ago. Like, they've had the Boss a couple times. They've put out U2 up there. Coldplay has played it. It's like, not every one of these halftime shows are going to be for you. Beyonce has been awesome. Lady Gaga was excellent. And those aren't my favorite acts, but I appreciate their artistry. And some I can take, some I can leave, but not every performance is going to be for you. And that's okay. That's what kind of great about it, right? So again, I thought, the stagecraft, the messaging, I thought was really smart. But yeah, as far as the music goes, it's not really my cup of tea. And that's okay. It's not for me. Ryan, thanks for the super chat, man. Goody treats the draft picks like gold. As long as he does that and not get some veteran leadership, Green Bay won't make another Super Bowl. Ryan, I completely disagree. You mean like signing Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs? Like those kind of things? Signing veterans? Why is it that everything he does that you want him to do, you don't give him credit for? But every time there's like any kind of idea that there's a young team that's on the upcoming, you dismiss that youth as being unable to get them where they need to go. Like, the development is a very real thing. Growing together as a group, as a core, which they're going to have to start identifying, by the way, when they decide who they're paying and who they're letting walk. I mean, they're about to undoubtedly play Zach Tom. That's a young guy that's up and coming and playing good ball for them. Is that a bad thing? I mean, Ryan, he's doing exactly what you want him to do. Xavier McKinney's not a leader? Is that what you're saying? Come on, my guy. Ed, thanks for the super chat. As a PSA to all the local Bears fans, I love informing them that the Packers have won 3 in a row. Twice! What's wild to me, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. There's someone on Twitter who keeps pointing this out, and he's dead right. It's wild to watch Bears fans come after Packers fans for touting the 2 3-peats, right? Or just talking about the 13 championships in general. Like, they're younger Bears fans are like, oh, you never even saw that, or like, doesn't count because it was so long ago. You would think Bears fans, of all people, would want to lean into history, because otherwise, without it, what do they got? One fart in the wind in '85, and that's it. I mean, they did a ton of stuff back in the day. They were a model franchise. They should be leaning into Papa Bear, not dismissing him and saying his wins and championships don't count. It's just funny. I mean, I say all this, and we're talking about Bears fans here, so I guess I can't be too surprised. Styling and profiling. How you doing, man? Nags, not sure how it works, and doubt Murphy would do this, but is he keeping Goody from making moves? Good thing we passed on DeJean. Go Pack, go. No, Murphy is not doing anything of the kind. And I'm glad you brought up the DeJean thing, and we passed on DeJean. It's fascinating to me to watch fans use that pick six last night as a reason to go after Gutekunst when you do realize they got a player just as good in Evan Williams later in the draft. They played different types of defense. It's a different style, totally different scheme. You think that helps DeJean in that situation where they can rush floor and play a ton of coverage, keep his eyes on the quarterback? It's a too high look. It's Vic Fangio's system. He's perfect for it. Like, I don't understand why the Packers fans can't get behind the idea of got a player just as good in Evan Williams and fortify the offensive line. Do you think they could have used Jordan Morgan in that playoff game in Philadelphia? Probably would have been a little bit different, right? If he's healthy. And that's the other thing. I understand not having Jordan Morgan out there is frustrating, right? But he hurt his shoulder in the summer, and then he re-injured that injury later on in the year, and they had to shut him down. That's just bad luck, man. That doesn't make it a bad draft pick. In fact, that's smart drafting. Why are people so upset about smart drafting? I get it wasn't the outcome you wanted, but the process was good and sound. Talk to me next year. Come back to me at the end of next season after Evan Williams takes his second-year jump and he's balling out. And you're like, oh, that's right. We've got a really good offensive lineman and a baller in the secondary. The lack of context, the lack of ability to just pull back just a little bit. This drives me nuts, man. Nick, what's going on, man? Should we expect a bounce back from Kenny Clark? Bounce back is an interesting way to put it. I wouldn't call it a bounce back. I would say, should we expect a little bit more production out of Kenny? Because I do think he played good ball through much of this season. It just didn't show up on the stat sheet. Now, that said, would you like to see a little bit more production? Absolutely. No question about it. Will you see it? Let's just say I'm dubious. We'll see. It really depends to me on the rotation of what they get kind of to help him, guys around him, continue to add up front. He played a lot of ball yet again. At some point, it would be nice to not have to have him out there for 70% of the snaps every game. But yeah, that's cautiously optimistic, I would say. But certainly, he played better than people give him credit for. Just because it didn't show up on the stat sheet doesn't mean he wasn't balling out. That's what I say. Simitovich, what's going on, man? T-Swift halftime show? I need a yes, no, or maybe. I'll always give that a maybe. I'd love to see it. But my dream halftime performer would be Weird Al Yankovic. That would be amazing. It would bring down the house. Everyone would sing along and have a good time. Probably won't ever happen, but it'd be so much fun. That would be great. Joey, thanks again, man. I'm just saying, what if Jordan Morgan turns into an awesome player and those who are saying we should have drafted DeJean? I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. I guess people will be like, that's great that Jordan Love got to stay upright and throw for all these yards and score touchdowns. But, man, wouldn't it be nice to have Cooper DeJean? I don't know. I guess that's where they're headed. I don't know what they're going to do. Peter Lohr, how you doing, man? Would we utilize Kraft in the fullback position more next year? I don't know that you'd ever see a true kind of fullback position. You know, they do every once in a while get into like an I form and do kind of the old school stuff, belly and A gap stuff. But yeah, I don't ever see him being utilized there very much. I mean, I think there'll be an odd play here or there. They will probably keep kind of augmenting that position. Who knows about Tyler Davis? I think they wanted to utilize him more as that kind of move guy, including up front as a quasi fullback. Maybe they bring him back in that role. I suspect they'll find someone along the way this offseason to fill that role rather than using their, frontline tight end in that position. Now, Is it possible to have him in there a handful of times? I think that will occur, but I don't think that would ever be his kind of forte, as it were. Sorry guys. Let me see what we got. Uh, yeah, there you go. GP, you've got it right. Dejean was not a first round pick. It's just the way the draft goes. Give credit to that monster D line that helps their DB make plays. Funny how that works, right? Especially when they got vision on the quarterback. I just want, Mr. JJ says, I just want to draft pass rushers after watching Philly dominate with their defensive line. I agree, man. And that's what I've been talking about pretty much all offseason as far as I don't care where they add. I don't care if it's edge. I don't care if it's defensive tackle. I want more talent along the front. And I hear people when they say they've already got all these first round picks. I don't care. And again, I don't care if it's free agency. I don't care if they trade for someone. I don't care how they do it. I don't care where they add. I want more talent up front. I want to dominate. I want to get after the quarterback in waves. And when you do take a guy off the field, it doesn't mean that we're going to drop off, right? To me, that's what it's all about. Own that line of scrimmage. Control the game up front. You're going to do that by adding talent. Talent that can win one-on-one, which is what you heard Gutekunst talk about at the end of season presser. Furial, I think you got a point here. The injury history thing is also why this draft, I don't think Green Bay will take Revel or Morrison at corner. Unless those guys can test at the combine or pro days, Goody won't pick them. I think you're probably right, although I will say it really, really kind of depends. I mean, they've certainly gone with guys who haven't tested in this kind of draft period once or twice before. So I don't think it would completely take them off the possibility list, as it were. But more often than not, they do tend to shy away if they can't get testing numbers on guys. That is true. All right, buddy, I'm going to have to get going. I cannot thank you enough for hanging out, talking Packers each and every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Cheesehead TV social channels. Please do me a monster favor. Hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then tell your friends and tell your family, Cheesehead TV. We are devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night. Go Pack, go.